Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Okay, let us start with our prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं वर्जनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी अनुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वंश कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय पादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष आदि पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे मुकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्री गुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवम श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरम। हरि ओम तत्सत। हरे कृष्ण। Thank you for joining. So we are at the point of discussing the concluding chapter of the fifth canto of the Srimad Bhagavat, a total of 26 chapters, and today we are on the 26th chapter. I intend to complete it, Krishna willing. Let's see how we progress. So we have been discussing the universal creation in a fair bit of detail, I think from chapter 17 onwards, if I remember correctly. Most of, or a fair amount of, a fair portion of this canto is sthanam, which refers to the place or the places created for living entities to occupy. Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, and so many other topics. Sarga is primary creation, Visarga is secondary creation, including the topic of how the universe was populated, and we have been discussing the various descendants and how from them various great personalities appeared, and from their descendants and so on and so forth, how the universe was populated. And the fifth canto, more specifically, we have been discussing about Maharaj Priyavrat and his descendants. So we are almost at the conclusion of the Sthanam discussion. A bit of the Sthanam discussion, along with a little bit of Sarga discussion and Visarga discussion, has already happened in second, third canto a little bit. But this particular section of the Srimad Bhagavat aims at giving a description of the universal geography. What is the structure of the universe? And now we have come, we discussed the horizontal structure, we discussed the vertical structure, we went upwards in the vertical structure, then we went downwards in the vertical structure, and we covered the 7 lower planetary systems. So, and we even came to the point of discussion of Ananta. But between Ananta and the Bhumandal plane, the living entities who reside in Bhumandal reside on the plane on top of the disk of Bhumandal. But there are various planetary systems inside the solid earth in terms of various villas, tunnels in that earth, which are known as the various Bilaswargas. The 7 Bilaswargas, starting with Atal, Tal, Vital, Sutal, and so on, with the lowest one being Patal. We discussed about them. We discussed about the conditions of life there, who goes there, what kind of situation is there. That was a very interesting discussion. Even for me, when I first read about this many years ago, it was really very amazing to find out that there are 3 types of Swargas. There is Divya Swarga, there is Bhauma Swarga, and there is Bilaswarga. So after giving all this description, and then the last chapter we discussed about Lord Ananta and the glories of Lord Ananta. We discussed how at the time of universal dissolution, this Ananta, who's so powerful that only one of his hood he's supporting the entire Bhumandal disk. And all his hoods are busy chanting the glories of the Lord. Doesn't even feel the weight of the whole Bhumandal, because he's an expansion of Sankarshan. Very, very powerful. And it is he who at the time of universal dissolution, while other times he controls his anger, at the time of universal dissolution, between his brows comes Lord Shiva, expands into the 11 Rudras, all with a trident in their hand, and they all open their third eye and burn up the 3 loka. So all these things we discussed. So in this way, when he describes the situation of the universal structure, Parikshit Maharaj, at the beginning of the 26th chapter, inquires from Shukadev Goswami. Amit is saying my voice is not very clearly audible. Is it true? Is it for others as well?
Oh, Prabhuji, I think I'm good from my end.
Very clear, Prabhu.
Yeah. Clear, Prabhu.
Yeah, no? Okay, then it's not my mic. Okay, maybe it may be a connectivity on the other side. We can check. So he asked, why are so much variety? Different kinds of planetary system, different types of abodes, sthanam. Why are living entities put into all these various different kinds of conditions? Interesting question, right? Because we may also wonder, Hare, so many wonderful places are there. Why I am in Kuala Lumpur? Why I am in Chennai? Why I am in Nasik or wherever we may be? Wow, some of these places sound so far out. What is the basis of which that certain living entities are given certain bodies in certain abodes across the whole universe? So Shukdev Goswami starts answering this particular question. He says, people go to various places based on the nature of their fruitive activities. In simple words, according to their karma. And he says that basically, based on the nature of their faith, whether their faith is sattvic, rajasic or tamasic, accordingly they perform activities, and based on that kind of activities, they achieve a particular kind of destination. Karma gatayaha prathag vidaha. Karma gata. So basically it means you cannot blame God or anybody else as to why you are where you are, not only in terms of your location, but your situation in life and whatever else is surrounding you. Who's responsible? Not God. God has created the framework. Responsible. I am fully responsible for my current condition. This is also a very important lesson in spiritual maturity. A spiritually mature person takes full responsibility for his current situation. And of course, this question comes more when difficulties come. Usually when wonderful things happen, Radhanath Maharaj says, nobody complains to Krishna. Why me? How many of us complain to God? God, you gave so much money. Why you gave to me? Why you didn't give to my friends? Oh Lord, this is so unfair. Oh no, I'm praying. No, you should equally distribute this. Please give to all my friends and relatives. Have you heard any such prayer? Has any one of you prayed like this? I mean, at least I can say honestly, I have not. When it comes, yeah. When things don't go well, we are immediately searching the responsible. And we are looking all over the world to find who's responsible for my misery. But we forget that we have to actually point the actual responsible person for the condition. Just but we try to put the blame elsewhere. So a person who becomes spiritually mature, he comes gradually to the realization that I have to take full responsibility for my current situation. Full responsibility doesn't mean that I'm in control. We're not talking about that. We still need Krishna's mercy. That's a different topic. And with that, we can attain much higher heights than what we can attain by our own endeavor. That is true. But the mess that we have created in our life is our own doing. It is not God sitting in heaven, trying to torture us. So he describes, Shukdev Goswami says, those who are in Sattva Guna, generally they experience happiness. Those who are in Raja Guna, they experience a mixture of happiness and misery. And those who are in Tamoguna are actually in suffering. And according to these gunas, all these various planetary systems and situations are there because based on Urdhvam Gacchanti Sattvasto, Adhe Tishtanti Rajasaha, Aganya Gunavrittisto, Adho Gacchanti Tamasa. Yes? Which scripture is this verse from? Anyone? From CC, from Bhagavatam, from Gita, anybody? Do your research. Okay?
Is it Gita Prabhuji? Gita Prabhuji?
So you are taking a chance or you know?
I read it, but sorry for background.
No, it's okay. I'm just joking. Yeah, your answer is correct. Okay. So Krishna explains in the 3 modes, the 14th chapter, says, those who are in Sattvagun, they go upwards. Upwards means vertical structure of the universe, Divya Swargas. Up. The higher you are evolved, the higher up you go. Madhye Tishtanti Rajasaha. Generally, those who are the modes of passion, they remain in the middle regions. Who? Adho Gacchanti Tams. Jaganya Gunavritti. Jaganya means abominable mentalities. And the most abominable mentality is that of which is thoroughly materialistic, which defies the existence of God, and promotes a materialistic culture based on egoistic sense gratification. So accordingly, these various planetary systems are created. So to the extent a living entity is enveloped by ignorance, accordingly, because all who are in the material world have some ignorance, isn't it? Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. Unless there is some avidya. Avidya means lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge of what? Chemistry, physics, mathematics? No. Lack of knowledge of one's true identity. All living entities in this material world forgotten their real nature, and that is why they are here. Those who are little bit forgotten, sometimes they remember, sometimes they forget. They are the sattvic people. They have sattvic shraddha. They are the religious, faithful people. The rajasic people have some faith, but their faith is directed towards material attainments. Yes. Oh, God, give me this. So it's all about labh, puja, pratishtha, dhan. That is the driver for those who are rajasic. Tamasic are those who enjoy laziness, intoxication, extreme anger, those who are deluded, illusioned. That's the characteristics of the mode of ignorance. Who love to sleep. So everybody has ignorance. Those who have a lot of ignorance, especially those who are tamasic, have a lot of ignorance proportionately. And that is why they go into lower conditions. And accordingly, for those who are especially influenced by tamoguna and who are, because of that avidya, performing grossly sinful activities, which are adharmic in nature, they are carried by their strong materialistic desires, thousands of various categories of hellish planets. So suddenly, Shukdev Goswami speaks about Narakaloka. All this while he had not referred about Narakaloka. He described this, he described that. Huh? So suddenly, light bulb in Parikshit Maharaj. Hey, this topic to cover nahi kiya. This topic has not been covered. I learned the whole geography. Now, where is this place? So he suddenly starts asking Parikshit Maharaj, if hellish planets that you're talking about, where are they located? In brackets, you have not yet told me where. Is it upwards? Is it down? Is it somewhere, is it somewhere in the coverings of the universe? Maybe it's in the, because you didn't mention anywhere. Maybe it's in the covering. Is it somewhere in the, coverings of the universe? Where is it located? Or is it somewhere on earth that you didn't yet tell me? So Parikshit Maharaj then starts describing about these hellish planets. And this topic is interest. This topic is of great interest to people. And I think in Kali Yuga especially, it is of great interest. But unfortunately, what happens is, for many people, when they read about this topic, they start quickly mapping all their friends, relatives, neighbors, office staff, boss. Oh, he will go here. Oh, that person. This is the disease of the conditioned soul. Always judging others, always criticizing others, never taking responsibility for his own situation. And this is a very important lesson. If you do not come to this point, we will not be able to make significant spiritual progress. We will remain immature. That ultimately the person to blame is that we try to always fix the world. Think, become happy. I have to fix the world. But the reality is, you don't need to fix the world. Each person is his own situation based on his own karma and background and desires. Who is to be fixed? You have to take a mirror and look. Your answer lies there. Who is to be fixed? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, such a learned Paramhamsa Mahabhagwat, a very, very powerful paragraph that he has written. I do not remember all the words, but that is, I just love that paragraph. If I find it, I will post it. Very powerful, very summary, and very strong words he says. He says, this world is not in need of any reform. It is going on perfectly by the perfect plan of the Supreme Personality of God. He is fully in control. And I'm paraphrasing, the words may be a little bit up and down. So don't say you misquoted. I don't have it in front of me. But I'm just trying to convey, paraphrase what he's trying to say. Some of the words are very similar. And then he says that the only person who needs to be reformed is oneself. Because when we reform ourselves, when we transform the consciousness which we look at ourselves and the world, everything becomes perfect for us. And that will benefit the world also. So this is a very important lesson for a spiritualist. Sometimes even for our own spiritual life, we are blaming others. Yes, thank you, Amit. Amit has posted it. The world stands in no need of any reformer. Thank you. So later you can read through. This is a very, very nice, powerful paragraph. I just love this, how profound it is. Anyway, this is a side topic, but I'm emphasizing this because these are very, very important truths to wake up to in our own growth, in our own spiritual growth. Otherwise, we may by heart all scriptures, Gita, Bhagavatam, CC, we can give big, big classes. And then we fail to demonstrate a spiritual character. I'm not in any way giving any certificate to myself. So I'm also in the process of learning, but I'm just sharing this with you. Because time to time, I also realize, oh, why? Why am I doing this? It's not supposed to be like this. This is how it is. So as we grow in spiritual life, gradually we start realizing there is so much work we all need to do on ourselves. Anyway, so coming back to the topic, where are the hellish planets located? He says the hellish planets are located in the intermediate space between the lower planets. Bottom of the lower planets is the Patalaloka, and which is on the northern side, and on the southern side is the Garbhodak Ocean. Between the Garbhodak Ocean and Patalloka, in that space, of course, it is above the heads of Ananta, higher, but it is situated in that region. Shukdev Goswami says some saints and sages say there are 21 prominent types of hell, and some others say that there are 28. So some scriptures describe 21, some scriptures describe 28. But actually, as it was mentioned earlier also, actually there are thousands of hellish planets. So it is said that the prominent 21 or 28, in this particular chapter, 28 are described. Prominent 28 are described. So not that all are described. So do not think that if my sins do not fall into the 28 categories which are mentioned here, because each of these hell is specially meant for certain kinds of sins, that I am free. Correct? So these are just prominent ones based on certain significant sins or offenses or transgressions which are committed, based on which certain kinds of punishments are there, and for those certain kinds of punishments, certain kinds of hells are designed. So it is said immediately below Patala Loka, a little, not immediately, but below Patala Loka, first we will find Pitriloka. Pitriloka, and this is what we often hear about Pitrulok, the deceased souls go there and they are judged by Yamaraj there. So Yamaraj stays, that is one of the abodes. Just like Samyamani is one of the abodes of Yamaraj, this is also an abode. This abode seems to be where he spends most of his time, because that's his full-time job. His job is to judge. The problem is we try to take Yamaraj's job on our own head. We try to become judge of others. He's in a position to judge because he's empowered by the Lord to understand thoroughly the motives and the karma and the background of each living entity so that he gives a proper judgment. We neither know the background, nor exactly the intention, nor exactly the details of the karma, but we are very eager to pass judgments. He's like this, he's like this. And this is the characteristic of Dvaita Buddhi, friend, enemy. Quickly try to put either this person is out of my life, or he's in my friend bucket, or he's in my enemy bucket. Of course, within the friend buckets, there are many other smaller, special and not so special buckets. That's different, but broadly into two categories. Either I like him or I don't like him. So Pitruloka is the first one, and Pitruloka is presided by the is the residence place of the Pitris, the forefathers, headed by personality known as Agniswatta. And Agniswatta, along with all the other Pitris, they're all very pious souls. Pitruloka is also considered a heavenly planet. Some of the Pitris stay in Pitruloka, some of the Pitris stay on half of the moon. If you remember, when we discussed about Chandraloka, one half of the moon Pitris stay, and the other half of the moon is Devaloka. So they are all very pious, and it is said in great focus on the Lord. They are greatly praying to the Lord for the welfare, especially for the welfare of their families. So Yamaraj resides there, and Yamaraj has an army, a huge organization of enforcement. He's the original ED, Enforcement Directorate. Nowadays in India, Enforcement Directorate has become a terror because they get behind you and enforce law. So Yamaraj is the Lord's appointed Enforcement Directorate. He's the director, but he has his army to do the job, who are all known as Yamadutas. They are given a very specific task. Go and grab the sinful living entities, deserve to be severely punished, snatch them out of their bodies when their time has come, tie them around the neck with a noose, drag them and pull them from their residence on earth, wherever they are. Drag them all the way, bring them the hellish planets, where they will be placed according to their karma after being judged in one of these hells. So it is said roughly the distance between Bhumandal and the hells is roughly 99,000 yojanas. It is said sometimes this pulling and bringing of the soul is so fast that the living entity in his subtle body is transported from where he dies to this judgment of Yamaraj in moments. So 99,000 yojnas are traversed in moments. Sometimes it is said it takes even days, sometimes even months. And usually it is said for those who are sinful, this journey is not at all pleasant. So this is not a joyride. The bus comes, please be seated here. Next stop is, you will be arriving in the arrival hall of Narakaloka. They are literally scary. Yamadutas tie a noose around their neck and drag them on a road. So there's a great detailed description. That description is not given in the Bhagavad here, but it's found in Garuda Puran and elsewhere. How the Yamadutas, grab and pull him out. It is said the Yamadutas give that soul, the preta, because when a living entity comes out, first he comes out in the form of preta. Through the process of shraddha and prayers and other things, the preta body gets gradually converted into a pitrideha. And then that pitrideha becomes eligible to go to the pitrilok and higher heavenly planets. So that conversion is important. It happens in various ways, especially through pindadan and other things. But here, the preta body, it is said, the Yamadutas immediately grab this living entity, pull him out. And he is especially given a body, I don't know how they do it, which is known as Yatana Deha. Yatana Deha literally means the body designed for miseries. The body designed for miseries. They are given, I don't know what exactly they do, but it's covered over by a Yatana Deha. It's dragged. That is whipped along the way. He's very thirsty, but he's not given water. There is scorching heat. Along the way, there are also certain animals who come and bite and cause various kinds of misery. So that is described in great detail in Garuda Purana. I don't want to go into that, but I just thought I'll just briefly mention that the journey from being snatched out of the body, coming to this judgment place, is also not particularly pleasing. Now you may say, why Yamadutas are needed? When you go to heavens, is it that necessarily somebody will come and escort you to heaven necessarily? Well, I don't know all the scenarios, so I can't click, but it's not really necessary. Force is needed when you are be forcibly taken to a place where you don't want to go. Correct? Yeah. For example, if somebody invites you to a party, do they come to your home, grab you, tie you up, and take you to the party? I really wanted you to come grab you and tie you up. No, they'll just phone you or message you very nicely, pleasant invitation, nicely, peacefully get dressed, put some perfume and go. Because you'll willingly go there. But if somebody is supposed to be taken to a jail, does the police send a nice, beautiful invitation card from the prison department? Shubha, Labh, please come today on this auspicious tithi. Is the first day of imprisonment. Kindly come at this address. Your prison clothes are ready. Please say bye-bye to all your relatives for the next 14 years. Or whatever it is. And then the person will come nicely and report, this is my I have come. Nobody will come like this. They have to be dragged. Because when something is unpleasant, when there's a punishment, it has to be forced. So it is actually a rude shock. Many living entities, atheistic especially, or those who are agnostic or atheistic and sinful, for them, seeing the Yamadutas is a very rude shock. Seeing Yamadutas themselves is very scary. And this is not an imagination. Huh? I'm just deviating from what is from the main topic. It's okay. We can cover this whole topic in 2 classes. It's an interesting topic, so I thought I wanted to share this a bit. Many people who have no background of what the Bhagavatam and the Garud Puran says have reported seeing Yamadutas with a description that exactly matches what the Bhagavatam says. And many years later, they read Bhagavatam and say, yeah, I have seen this person. When I was in the hospital, and I'm telling this from devotees whom I know personally, they have reported. When they were very sick and they were in a particular situation, they saw, I saw one or two Yamadutas sitting next to the bed of my neighboring patient. And this is a devotee, very senior devotee. He got so alarmed when he saw. So what happens normally, of course, we cannot see, but sometimes when we are in a certain zone in our consciousness, especially when sick, sometimes when we are very sick, we go into a particular zone where sometimes subtle entities become visible. And many people who have reported when they go into those kind of zones. He literally called the doctor, nurse, come, somebody has come. He didn't know who it is. Has come to, At that time, the Yamaduta had just come and was just sitting near the bed. Not his bed, the neighboring patient's bed. He was reporting on duty, but the exact time had not come to snatch him. He was waiting. Because they also follow schedule. They have given exactly 9:38 p.m. 16 September 2023. Mr. So-and-so. Time up. Pull him out. Bring him. So he was waiting. And the nurses and others came and they said, no, the patient is okay. Everything is okay. He said, no, he's going to die. No, everything is okay. You sleep. You are not feeling well, I think. So within the next 15-20 minutes, that person passed away. And the Yamaduta snatched him in. So of course, if in hospitals, Yamaduta are very regular visitors. Of course, they visit everywhere. But at least hospitals, we can say pretty regularly, especially in Kali Yuga. Anyway, so there are many such episodes. So I just wanted to emphasize that these are not imaginary. Of course, Yamadutas have been strictly instructed to not touch devotees, especially those who are wearing Kantimala and those who are chanting the holy names of the Lord. Especially after the Ajamil episode, which we'll be discussing soon, it's part of the 6th canto. It's a beginning pastime of the 6th canto, where this whole thing, where Yamaraj chastises the Yamadutas. It is not our department's jurisdiction to judge the devotees, especially those who have taken shelter of the Lord and who are chanting his name. And that's Lord's department. That is Supreme Court job. That is not our prison department job. The Supreme will take care of what is to be done. Anyway, so the living entities who are sinful, they are dragged to these places, and then according to their karma, they are placed in one of these 28 hells. Now, as I mentioned again, I just want to repeat, It doesn't mean that there are only 28, because it is said there are thousands of hells. So if you find sins which don't map into this 28, I don't think, I don't have to suffer. And also Bhagavatam, towards the end of this whole description of the 28 hells also says that how much time a person spends in particular hell also depends on how sinful they have been. Right? It's not standard punishment. In the Sanatan Dharma, in the Vedic tradition, there is no eternal damnation. There is no putting into hell forever, condemned eternally. No matter how sinful a person is. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. No matter how sinful a person is, if he is situated on the boat of transcendental knowledge, he can cross over the ocean of material existence. There is nothing so sublime as the boat of transcendental knowledge. Jnana plavena santarishyasi. You will cross over with the jnana plava, the boat of transcendental knowledge. And that is our whole endeavor, right? Why are we gathering together? To develop knowledge about Bhagavad Tattva, about Bhakti, about Sadhana, about Bhagwan, so that we can elevate ourselves and be situated on the path of Dharma. So now there is a list of 28. I'm going to briefly go through it. I don't know how excited you are to read through this list. Personally, I don't feel very excited. I was excited when I read this maybe 35 years ago. And that time when I read, I was more curious to find out whether I fit into any of those categories. But yeah, I mean, at least not in any serious way. So I was a bit relieved, okay, at least at a very gross level. So of course, all of us perform sins. It doesn't mean that anybody who has performed any amount of sin has to go to hell. So that's another important point to understand. So hell, or the Naraka Yatana of Naraka. Yatana means the torture of hell, is reserved for those whose sin is so much that ordinary reactions in Bhulok will not be adequate to cover his sin, because it will take probably millions of lifetimes for them to cover. So this is a intense period of punishment for them, so that they can actually be purified faster and learn the right lesson. This punishment is not out of hatred or anger. The whole idea of punishment is, please understand, if something similar is done to you, what it feels like. So through that punishment, the intention is that the living entity develops the samskara. This is not a good thing. Yes. So, how did I? Because as the living entity is made to suffer in this hell, he's also, it is mentioned in a few times in this chapter, he's made to remember what he did, because of which he has to suffer. So in that way, the whole purpose is to help the jiva learn. It's not punishment for the sake of punishment or punishment out of anger. It is a correctionary facility. Correction. I think in the West, especially in America, I think they don't use the word jail and prison so much. I think now they often use correction, something like that. Maybe those who are from there can give the exact word, but something like correctionary facilities. The whole idea is we want to correct. The sad thing is, some people do not learn unless they are punished. What to do? When good advice is given, they don't want to hear. Even when Krishna will give some glimpses in this world, don't do this, you will suffer. Don't learn. And they become not only a disturbance for themselves, but for the rest of the world, and start causing so much misery to others that the Lord has no choice, create such facilities for their rectification. so that only through such institutional correction facilities, this is what they call in the West, which is these hellish planets, one is forced to repent. And it is not necessary that everybody who comes out of hell comes necessarily corrected, because whether to learn or not to learn is ultimately up to the free will of the jiva. The Lord never interferes with the free will of the jiva. Even in the prison nowadays, right? People who come out, some people after they come out, they say, Baba, I have had enough. I will never do this again. But some people, they are coming out immediately, they get back to the job or whatever crime they have been doing. So learning or not learning is ultimately up to the individual jiva, but punishment you have to suffer. The price you have to pay. So I'll quickly go through 28 hells, and if you're interested, you can it's 9:47 already. Okay, let's see. Even if we don't complete fully, we can complete part of it now, and we can go the next chapter. The next class, we can do part of it, and the rest we can take question answers also. So each of these hells has a specific name, and that name is functional. Functional in the sense it indicates what kind of punishment is given in that particular hell. Excuse me. So the first hell is described as Tamisra. Tamisra means darkness. What kind of sin results in being sent to Tamisra? Anyone who appropriates or snatches away somebody's spouse, children, wealth. This is the first hell mentioned. He is put into Tamisra. It's a very dark place. In that place, it is said he is severely chastised, beaten, and starved of food and water, and he is made to suffer so much that he faints. Worse than Tamisra is Andha Tamisra, where there is darkness which is almost blinding. He said he's thrown down into a deep, dark region, full of pain. He loses his consciousness and sight. His condition becomes like that of a tree which is cut at its root. So Andha Tamisra is Tamisra plus plus. And the sin is also plus plus. So the first one, Tamisra, was if you snatch away somebody's wife, property, or wife or husband. Of course, if wife is mentioned, doesn't mean a wife can snatch somebody else's husband. Both ways. Andha Tamisra, if a person cunningly cheats the other person's husband to take away his wife and children away from him and his wealth or wealth, then the punishment is Andha Tamisra. Slyly cheating another man and enjoying his wife and children. Okay, and the other way around. The next hell which is mentioned is Raurava. Now, Raurav name comes from the name Ruru. Ruru is a very special animal. Just like on earth, dogs are very common. I don't know if you have seen any of those, in these Western movies, they show these terrible wolf-like dogs, huge, scary, huge teeth. So Rurus are something like that. Probably they got that idea from the Bhagavad. They are a kind of hound, but the hounds on earth are very pleasant looking. The Ruru, if you see also from a distance, people will wet their pants, so to say. They are terribly scary, extremely scary, much more scary than a tiger or a lion. And you know what is the amazing thing? It's not too bad if a tiger or a lion encounters you. Why? Because within a few seconds, the tiger or the lion will kill you. But once you have a yatana deha given by the Yamadutas, yatana deha doesn't perish. You don't die. Even if the Rurus come and bite you and start eating you alive, you don't die. The yatana deha is designed for you to experience so much more time suffering than what you will experience on earth. With even a fraction of that suffering on earth, you will die. Because this body cannot take that much suffering. But a yatana deha is designed to not die. So hell is, a job well done. They have designed it nicely. You will suffer, but you will not die. The body is designed like that. So especially those living entities who commit violence against other living entities to maintain his family, and those who are attached to the concept of me and mine, or rather to say that those who are driven by the concept of me and mine, and they commit violence on others as a means of their livelihood. So in Raurav, living entities who were injured by the person in his life on earth, it is said sometimes they will come in the form of Ruru animals, and they will tear him apart and give him miseries that they were subjected to by him. And they inflict pain upon him. Then just like there is Raurav, there is Maharaurav. Those who maintain one's body by hurting others. Some people's profession itself is to hurt others. Some of us, as a part of our dealings, end up hurting others, or really hurting. I'm not talking hurting just as in a verbal argument. We are talking about serious bodily harm here. Some people's profession it is to murder. They are paid assassins. They are terrorists. Or, for example, politicians create violence, danga, riots, where so many people die just for their own benefit. Don't care, so many people die and are hurt. Now, this is not quoted in the Bhagavad. I'm just giving examples from my own mind. To suit their selfish interest, they don't hesitate that so many others undergo so much suffering. So Maharaurava is for them. So there also Ruru animals are there. There is a special category of Ruru animals. It is said Kravyadas. I think it is a more terrible form of Ruru animal which is there. It is said they torment him and eat him alive. Very, very painful. The next is Kumbhi Pak. Pak means where the sinful person is cooked alive. Cooked. So those people who cook animals and birds alive just to maintain their body and tongue, they are put into Kumbhi Pak, where he is cooked in boiling oil. Doesn't die. Imagine just like we are frying a pakoda, we are put into the fire and we don't die. But we feel the burning oil in the Yatana Deha. How long? Until your karma, whatever karma you have created, until that is paid off, you will experience that. The next is Kala Sutra. Kala Sutra means, it's a hell. This hell is for a person who has killed a Brahmana. Who is a Brahmana? Brahma Janati iti Brahmana. Those who are devoted to spiritual life, who are learned in spiritual science. So Kala Sutra, the environment is somewhat like this. There's a flat copper surface, which is very hot because there's a fire from down. It's very hot. And there is very hot, scorching sun from the top. So it's heat everywhere. And this flat copper plate is of circumference of 10,000 yojanas. So you can run in all directions. You cannot reach the end. So you are put in this hot, scorching place where you are suffering and you have nowhere to run. So he's burnt internally by hunger and thirst, externally by the fire from down and the sun from up. He lies down, he gets scorched and burnt, he gets up, he's scorched and burnt. And he suffers, it is said, for as many years, as many thousands of years as there are hairs on the body of an animal. Quite scary. So that means that, killing a Brahmana, what to speak of killing a Vaishnava? Vaishnava is the culmination of a Brahman. It's a very sinful activity. We'll cover one or two more and then we will pause. The next is Asi Patravan. Asi Patravan. Patravan means the leaves. Asi means sword. Where there are palm trees whose leaves are actually sharp swords. Imagine a tree in which the leaves are like blades. So those who deviate from the path of the Vedas, in the absence of an emergency, because sometimes in an emergency situation, one may have to do something which is not typically part of the duty. But when there is no emergency, but when one deviates and adopts an unauthorized system, he is placed into Asipatravan. In Asipatravan, it is said he is beaten with whips as he is running away in pain. He runs through this forest of these palm trees, where his body is slashed and cut by these sharp leaves. An important thing to note, he doesn't die. So he gets cut, maybe it heals after some time, again he gets cut, again he gets cut. So it's a continuous suffering. One more and then we'll end. Shukara Mukha. So if a king or a government representative punishes an innocent person, sometimes some people are framed. It's not uncommon to frame your enemies under false charges. Sometimes what to speak of enemies, even those whom you are envious of, as people frame. Or if a person inflicts a physical punishment on a Brahmana, then Shukara Mukha is the hell that they are sent to. Shukara Mukha means crushing, where the body is crushed. It is said the limbs of a person who is sent to Shukara Mukha is crushed just like a sugar cane is crushed to make juice. You have seen sugar cane being put into the machine. Ganne ka juice. It gets crushed and comes out from the other side. Then you take it out and put it back again. You squeeze it until all the juice comes out. It is said the limbs of the person is crushed, but he doesn't die. Repeatedly, they put him again and again and again. Very pitiably, he cries in pain and he faints. As soon as he wakes up again from his fainting, again, one more round. and he's reminded, punished innocent people. Now you face this now, like that. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. There is much more actually. We have just covered 6 or 7. There are another 22. So no hurry. I don't know how interesting you find these hells, but if you find them interesting, we can continue the discussion in the next chapter. So I will just pause here, and if there are any questions that are related, yeah, we covered up to verse 16, correct? Okay. Any questions, any comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Tarun here.
Yes, Tarun Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have a basic question. Let's suppose some of the family member who does not want to come to the path of Krishna consciousness and back to Godhead. Is it fair to show them the horror of Naraka and the hellish planet, or share with them so that they can start coming back?
Yeah, that's okay.
Means it's not sinful because we are showing them the horror.
No. Warning somebody of the suffering that awaits them if they don't follow the path of dharma is not a sin. We are actually giving them a warning as to what they will subject themselves to. They do not correct themselves. Like just like our parents, right? Childhood, they'll tell, if you don't do this, this is what will happen. So in one sense, it will think they are scaring us. They're scaring us because they want us to understand that I'm just scaring you a little bit. But imagine what will happen if it actually happens. So of course, we can tell them, but there are people who, after having heard about this, have desisted from sinful activities. But it may or may not work. It depends on what is the evolution of that particular living entity. So you can try. Those who are atheistic, they are not going to be impressed by this. Those who are a bit sincere, they may think, oh yeah, better I. For example, some may think, yeah, better I don't, eat meat because, otherwise I will be put into Kumbhi Pak.
Kumbhi Pak.
Some people have become vegetarian after reading or hearing about this. So one must know. So no harm if you think any of your relatives will be benefited by knowing this.
I'm experimenting. Let's see where does it go.
Yeah. Tell us how it went.
Sure. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So since there is no other question.
Prabhuji, I have one more doubt, if I may ask.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Prabhuji, when we were reading the Ekadashi Vrit Katha and some other verses, it is clearly written that if you are doing this Vrit, the sin of all the past birth is removed, right? Similarly, if you are chanting this name and means Lord Ananta and Lord Krishna, the sin of past all births is being removed. Is that means like we are doing practices and all such things? Is this already cleared, or we are away from all this kind of impact of that? Because this is written in every Ekadashi Vrat Katha and majorly into the scriptures when I go through.
Yeah. So all devotional activities, spiritual activities, have the potency to eliminate all sin with even one performance. Even the holy name, in fact, there's a verse in the Bhagavatam, we'll discuss this in the Ajamil pastime. In the Nama Mahatmya, there is significant Nama Mahatmya. The glory of the holy name, where it is mentioned that one cannot even commit, and the verse may not be exactly like this, but there are many verses like this in the scriptures. That the holy name is so powerful that one cannot commit as many sins that can be wiped away by one chanting of the holy name. Now, what is important to note is that, and Prabhupada says this, that for this effect to happen, the quality of the utterance is important. Correct? Just like everybody who goes to the gym doesn't come out with a six-pack.
True.
How nicely or intensely you have done your exercises. The result depends on the quality of what you do. So the holy name has the potency to give you that effect. But it is your responsibility to access the holy name by taking full shelter of it and crying out the name with faith and devotion. So for any of these spiritual activities, the fruit is proportionate to your faith, to your devotion, to your intensity. It's as simple as that. Correct? Yeah. Just like, we say, if you want to cook food, you need fire. If you keep your pot and your fire very far away, then, you have the story of Birbal's Khichdi. Right?
True.
So what can you expect? So within Nama also, and we'll discuss this when we come to the Jamil past time, there is Nama Parad, Nama Bhas, and Shuddha Nam. So Nama Bhas very quickly eliminates sinful reactions. Nam Aparad will do, but it will do it slowly over time. Shuddha Nam, in one Nam, all sins will go. Instant. One Shuddha Nam. But are we able to utter Shuddha Nam? Are we able to chant offenseless? Correct? Yeah.
Okay.
So for all spiritual activities, any vrata, whether even utterance of a verse, even one puja. So that is why we want to gradually improve the quality of our spiritual activities. So another very good example given is just like, the sun's rays. If you keep a paper out on noonday on your balcony, it will have the sun's rays, but nothing will happen. It will just become a bit warm. But if you take a magnifying glass and you focus the sun's rays on the same paper, it's the same sunshine, it's the same paper, but when you focus it and increase the intensity, that intensity of the focus of the sunshine will burn the paper. Correct?
Clear. Yes.
So similarly, holy name is like that. So the problem is not with the holy name. The problem is our ability to focus.
Too intense.
To bring the intensity needed to produce the effect. So with material punya and papa, no matter how intensely you do it, they cannot destroy all sins. Because they don't have that potency within them to do it. The holy name has it, but you have to be able to access it. You have to be able to do the quality. So everything is a matter of quality.
Clear.
So that is why if we want proper benefit from any of our spiritual practices, the important qualities is with faith, with devotion, with absorption, with humility, with a desire to serve and please the Lord. Otherwise, it is also possible to do Ekadashi Vrata with a material intention. A person may do an Ekadashi Vrata purely for the purpose of, I'm doing this Vrata so that my health improves. I want to do this Vrata so my husband's business does well. And to the extent that they have some faith and to the extent that they execute the Vrata properly, they may get the result proportionately even what they ask for. Vrata, they are following a Vrata which has the power to give that, then they may even achieve the benediction, but they will not achieve the full potential of what the Vrata can give. So we have to understand it is a function of all these things. It's a function of what we want. It's a function of how we perform, with what quality we perform. All these things are very important. Yeah, Sridharji, you have something you want to say?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. During the fast break for Ekadashi, so you will have a specified time, right? So you have to complete taking that prasad in that time, or for example, like 10:16 is the deadline. So if we start 10 something, like 5 minutes before, and we can continue after that also. Is that okay, Prabhuji?
There is usually a time range. It's not that 10:16 dot you have to take. There is a time range. Usually the time range is of a couple of hours. Right? So within that
correct.
time
So,
range, you have to break the fast. So break the fast means anything you take to break the fast is breaking the fast. You don't have to have a full meal in that time necessarily. Even if you put 1 grain of rice in your mouth, your fast is broken. You can have your breakfast later, or your lunch or whatever else, later based on your convenience. But some one, even a particle of something which is non-Ekadashi, you have to take, and that breaks your fast.
and Prabhuji, about like before day and after day. So I heard like actually we have to take like lunch, and in the night some halpaharam, and the same we have to follow after the Ekadashi, like that also, Prabhuji, or only we have to do on special.
So there are Hari Bhakti Vilas gives even more stricter rules with respect to how much to follow. So again, like I said, there is no limit to how strictly you can do Ekadashi. Because the ideal standard for Ekadashi is no food, no water from the previous day evening. Previous day evening alpahar, and next day full day, no food, no water, and so many other rules also. Ekadashi means you cannot cut nails, you cannot cut hair. You must be, this we should follow. No cutting nails and no cutting hair on Ekadashi. And no serving grains also to others. So there are many things. I mean, but the thing is for us, especially in Kali Yuga, in a situation that we are all born in, Prabhupada gave us a very simple thing, that at least the basic minimum we should do is, no grains. If you cannot fully abstain from food, water, then at least Ekadashi Prasad we can offer and take. And next day we break our fast. So that is the minimum standard. Of course, if a person for health reasons is unable to follow that, it is said, Hari Bhakti Vilas Sanatan Goswami says that Ekadashi is mandatory for between 5 years of age to 80 years. That's how I remember it. And if a person is actually sick and for some reason he needs to eat, then he is exempt. So there are conditions. So the scriptures are not like, you die also, okay, you cannot put 1 grain of rice in another. Scriptures are not like that. So there are certain emergency situations in certain cases. So the Lord and Yamaraj are also considerate. They're not just following a checklist. Finished. Tick mark here. Gone. X. Finished. Drag him and make him suffer. So the Lord's justice is very considerate of your motivation, your circumstances, your situation. 2 people may commit the same activity under very different situations, circumstances, backgrounds, and they'll have very different punishments. And that is the reason I am saying we should not judge, because you don't know. Correct? We don't know, right? What is a person's background? So anyway, so of course the best is to avoid. So if you are able to and willing to follow more stricter guidelines, then yes. So the practical reason why there should be alpahar on the previous night is sometimes some people think they have this logic. Tomorrow I am fasting, so let me eat as much as possible the previous night so I don't feel hungry tomorrow. But actually, they don't understand that this actually produces a wrong effect. Because if you eat a very heavy meal now, the next morning, the body will be expecting a very heavy meal and give out more acid, making you feel more hungry and acidic. So alpahar is recommended so that the body gradually is being trained that now food is going to come down. So it is in preparation for the fasting. So if you are having a fasting on the next day, the preparation is not by having a very heavy meal, but rather by having a small or a moderate meal on the previous day. It will make it easier for you to fast rather than making it more difficult. So there are some things which are of practical considerations, and some things which are matters of actual abstinence, that you cannot do this, you cannot do that. So the more strictly one follows a vrata, the more greater benefit one gets. Correct. Same with taking dip in the Ganga, right? Will everybody who takes a dip in the Ganga get the same benefit? By one dip in the Ganga, one can cleanse all sins. But does everybody who jump in the Ganga get the same benefit? No. Are the fish who are in Ganga getting immediately liberated? No. So it also is a function of your faith, how you approach Ganga. So spiritual things are not a matter of just a mechanical execution. We are actively interacting with a divine energy who has a particular potency to give you a particular blessing. But how much of that blessing we can attract is based on how we approach. Humility, sincerity, faith, devotion, intensity. The more is there, the more will invoke the mercy of that particular personality, be it Ganges, be it the holy name, be it Tulasi. Yani kani cha papani brahma hatyadikani cha tani pranashyanti pradakshina pade pade. If one has that strong faith that as I am doing circumambulation of Tulasi, pradakshina pade, even brahma hatya pap will go away. One does with that faith and devotion and conviction, yes. But if a person just goes, kills a brahmana, runs around Tulsi and says, done, I am free. Now next to the next brahmana's house with my gun. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, so we cannot cheat the system. The system is meant for us to deliver ourselves. Without faith, if we abuse, we cannot. That's why even when we place food in front of the Lord is not obliged to eat. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya parach. God is not interested in your food. So you will see this theme coming everywhere in all spiritual activity. The Lord, His energies, His representatives, His devotees, they all reciprocate with us based on how we approach. So one particle of Mahaprasad can purify us, one holy name can purify us. Touching the lotus feet of a pure devotee even once can purify us. Touching the Ganges once can purify us. What to speak of touching the Ganges? It is said even the wind which blows over the Ganges comes and touches our body and goes. That also can purify us. So the potency of these things are unlimited. Problem is with us. Okay, Charan Lakshmi Mataji, you want to ask something?
Yes, Prabhuji. Beside all the things you mentioned just now, can we understand? Reciting Varai Stuti will help Prabhu to remove the sins.
Sorry, which stuti?
Varai Stuti. Varahi. No,
Varahi.
Varaha. Varaha.
Varaha.
Reciting
Because
stuti, yes.
Varahi is different. Varahi is a
No,
form of-
Varaha.
yeah. Any form of the Lord. Any form of the Lord, if we do the stuti in the right mood, then yes, of course. But for us as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as followers of Prabhupada, we generally prefer to keep our focus on worshipping Radha Krishna, Jagannath, Gaur Nitai, because we understand that they are the supreme manifestation of the original personality of Godhead. While there are so many incarnations and forms, we all respect, but we want to especially focus on taking shelter of our Aradhya, our Ishta, which is Radha Krishna. So yes, all are powerful, but can Krishna not give what, is there a special reason to, chant an XYZ prayer rather than this? I mean, it is not really necessary, but of course, if a person for whatever background or reason has some special affection, so somebody is from a family who is from a South Indian family, they have grown up listening to Suprabhat, correct, and every morning they like to, wake up to, hearing the Suprabhatam, and they want to continue. That's okay. But the important point is we want to work towards the ideal of exclusive devotion, Ananya Bhakti. So, like what I was saying, the magnifying glass example, as we go ahead, we want to be more focused. And we have to be ultimately convinced that Krishna is the sum total. Why we worship Krishna, Jagannath, Mahaprabhu? Because they're non-different. All three are Krishna. Say Krishna, say Gaura, say Jagannath. It's not different. They are the same Lord in three moods. So we're not worshipping three. We're worshipping the same Lord in three moods. So these three are worshipable deities for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. That doesn't mean that if we see Ramchandra, we don't offer obeisances. On Ram Navami, we offer obeisances to Ramchandra. On Varaha Dwadashi, we worship Varahadev, do Abhishek, glorify, hear their katha. But every day, we'll worship Radha and Krishna. And our objective ultimately is to achieve servitude to them as the servants of the servants. Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayor Das Das Anudas. That is our heart's ultimate aspiration. But yes, in principle, any name of the Lord, any stuti of the Lord has the potential to destroy all sins and grant us devotion. But amongst the various prayers to the Lord, it is also important that there are also prayers to the Lord, even in scriptures, which are fruitive in nature, which means they are asking the Lord for, give me this, give me this. So generally, as followers of the path of pure devotion, we are not particularly excited to sing those kind of prayers because that is not the mood we want to cultivate. Oh Lord, remove my obstacle. Oh Lord, give me this. Jobi, whoever worships you, their house becomes full of wealth. What does that mean? If you're singing these kind of prayers, means you're not interested in the Lord, you're interested in what He can give you. So then that is not really a high standard of devotion. So that is why even in prayers, we choose the prayers which are in the mood of pure devotion. That is why we refer to prayers which are sung by pure devotees. So I mean, the best thing is to take guidance from senior Vaishnavas with respect to a particular stotra or stuti, whether this is something which is best to be recited. So even if you're talking about protection, of course, Prabhupada spoke about Narsingha Pranam. So that is there. Then within the Srimad Bhagavat, there is the Narayan Kavacha. So that is especially recommended. It's part of the Bhagavat, so it is very authentic. Narayan Kavacha is a very powerful. Personally, I feel even Hanuman Chalisa is such a wonderful expression of devotion. Even though there are a couple of verses which are seeking blessings in terms of particular, but that is not the main theme. And the main theme is glorification of Lord and Hanuman. So that's a powerful way also. So it is best to be selective. So these things may not matter so much the very, very new stages, but if one wants to evolve and progress in a serious way, then these things matter. Yeah. So there is nothing that we cannot get simply by worshipping Radha and Krishna. And be convinced, if Radha and Krishna don't want to give you something, nobody else can give it to you. So there is no way around it. Mayaiva vihitanitan. Ultimately, I am only the one who is giving. If Krishna doesn't want a particular devotee get something for his own good, even if that devotee feels Krishna will not give me this, let me go to this channel, that channel, here, this devata, this personality, that personality, get. There is nobody, not even Lord Balaram, can foil the desire of Krishna. Balaram is Krishna's first expansion. Balaram wanted Subhadra to be married to Duryodhana. Krishna said no. Arjuna will marry Subhadra. So there are many episodes when even within the various forms of the Lord, there is difference of opinion. But Krishna's will prevails because he's the original independent supreme personality of God. So why not take full shelter of he who is fully capable and independent? Okay. Simple. And if he doesn't want, then we should try to make ourselves understand that why to break my head? It must be for my ultimate good. It's not easy, but as we develop in our faith, we have to grow up into that faith internally. To accept the will of the Lord as our ultimate good fortune, as what is best for us, even though we may not be able to understand how it is best. That is the challenging thing. Because Krishna is not going to come and give you an explanation every time. I'm putting you into this situation because this, and then you learn this, and then this will happen. He expects us to have faith. So that is what it means growing up into, that is what it means to be Sharanagat. Maro bhi rakho bhi, cho ichha tohar, nitya dasa pratituva adhikar. You may protect me or you may destroy me. Whatever you do is for my good, and I am your eternal servant. So whatever you do for me, I accept. So this is the consciousness of more evolved souls. Which is not easy, but we have to work towards developing that consciousness. Then we actually become really dear to Krishna. Those who have this kind of a consciousness. And it's not easy and it's not cheap. Okay. So thank you very much. Somehow for the class on the hells, there are so many people who have attended. So I thank you. And I hope as we go beyond the hell into the holy names, also everyone will continue with same enthusiasm. So, yeah. So thank you very much. So I'll see you again on Tuesday, and we'll continue our discussion on the Chaitanya Charitamrita. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Hare Krishna,
सामवेद
Prabhu.
और भक्तवृंद की
Jai.
हरे कृष्ण।
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Prabhu. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna,
Thank
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhuji.